If I was a guy, 31 years old, wanting to get in better shape because I wanted to be more social, get into dating, but I had 30 or 40 pounds to lose, here's exactly what I would do. So, what I'm going to do is share a screen and basically walk you through the second fitness audit I've done. So, if I was a male, 31, or even just that life stage, right? Late 20s, early 30s, wanting to take that next step in your life stage, but you're kind of blocked. You don't have the confidence that you need, confidence that you want to be able to go and ask someone out and be able to basically be more social, both from a friendship standpoint, networking, and then obviously dating if you want to have a family. So, first way I like to think about this video game, right? If we're playing a video game, you're starting the video game of progress to level, find a girlfriend or find a wife, whatever that is. You got to identify your base stats. In a video game, you're going to have your base strength, your base dexterity, your base charisma, whatever that is. And so the first things that I would get is what is your height and weight? That's going to give you the ability to get a rough estimate as to where your calorie intake should be. A more accurate one would be a body fat percentage, which we'll get to in a second. But take photos, get some data. And this could be photos, measurements, height, weight, daily activity level. This is where I would start to collect some data around your steps. How many steps are you getting a day? You could look at your Apple Health app and be able to say, okay, what are my average steps per day? And that'll give you a sense of, okay, I'm really sedentary, I need to move more. Or maybe you have a job that has you moving around a ton and that's actually not a constraint for you. You can actually focus on other things. Daily calorie intake, I'll get to that a little bit more in a second, but if you're going to lose weight, you got to be aware of what's coming in from a nutrition standpoint. Training experience, this is a big one that gets overlooked a lot. People go and look for a training plan and they get advice from someone who is further ahead than them, or they get advice from someone that doesn't have maybe the same knee issue, doesn't have a formerly torn labrum, doesn't have a bad back. And so obviously there's general things that are important, which we'll get to in a second, and you can't customize it to everyone when you're getting advice. ChatGPT could definitely be helpful, but the big thing with training experience, and the reason why I wanted to put this in here is so many people say, I don't have motivation, but in reality, what they don't have is clarity. And what they do have is uncertainty and doubt. They go into the gym to work out, but they're not certain. Is this going to work? Is this going to hurt? Am I going to look stupid doing this? And so the more certain you feel doing an exercise, the less of that motivation threshold you're going to have to overcome. So that's something that I would make sure you're just matching your training intensity, the exercise selection, and what you're doing each day to where you're at in your fitness journey. And it'll ramp up and scale just like a video game, because the more you put XP into something, the more it gets better. Body fat percentage. This is the real big one that I would be looking at. Height and weight, that's what they're going to use for BMI. But BMI is a really gross representation. Gross as in like very general. It's general representation of where you're at health wise. Can it tell you that you're obese and it's just, yeah, you are? Oftentimes, yeah, that's the case. But there's also 250-pound guys who spent a ton of time in the military, got really jacked, and they're built like linemen. And that's just, not an accurate representation of where they're at. There's also a lot of people that are in a healthy BMI range, but they're actually pre-diabetic. And 1/3 of people in the US actually are, in that healthy range. And unknowingly, they've got high blood sugar because there's also how much body fat you have on your body relative to the muscle. So if you can, I would get a DEXA scan. That DEXA scan, it's going to run you about $100, but it's one of the best things that you can do to get a sense of your visceral fat, your body fat percentage. And that's going to give you a very clear starting point. And then we'll get to specific numbers in a second, but I would aim for 15 to 20% body fat at least in terms of goals. So if you're at 35% body fat and you need to get down to 20, 15, if you want to really focus on more of the aesthetic side of things, then sweet. Now you know where you can work towards. But BMI doesn't necessarily give you that number. It gives you a weight that you need to be at for your height, but it's not as accurate as you'd want. You also want to make sure you're looking at what's going on the inside. Blood work's going to be really helpful. As I was building this, I was basing it off of a framework of someone else that had hypothyroidism. So understanding if your body's producing or not producing certain hormones, if you've got super jacked up cortisol or no cortisol because you've just been running 100 miles an hour for the last 6 years, maybe in your career. Maybe you've got low testosterone. You need to be aware of that. Maybe you have high cholesterol. Maybe you got high triglycerides. There's so many other factors that would then impact your nutrition. And if anyone's in this, bracket of type of avatar that I'm talking about, and you're like, hey, how would this apply to X, Y, and Z? I want to do more of these videos in the future so I can do a version of this specific to different base stats. But Yeah, so base stats, we want to make sure we get that initial data because it's really hard to point a direction if we don't know where we are. Then, just like a video game, what are your buffs and debuffs? I just talked about the specific case here. So in this example, let's say you've got hypothyroidism, you got some low back soreness because you're seated at a desk all day, working maybe as a software engineer or in IT or something to that effect on computers all day, and you have sore knees. The extra 40 pounds you have on your frame really weighs down on your knees. The lack of activity makes the knees hurt. And so that's going to be something that you got to work around. Maybe you had an injury. Maybe you played football in high school. I don't know. But that's going to be something that you want to be aware of. That is a debuff, right? In a video game, that's going to give you a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, make it harder in a certain area. But you can also have buffs. If you're a single guy, you probably got lots of free time, right? So now you've got something in your corner that is benefiting you. You've got apartment access for a gym. Awesome. Now you don't have to travel. That's a buff. I would say that's awesome. That's going to help you get buff. So understand like what are you playing with and what do we need to navigate and work around? And then for other people, again, who might have to travel to a gym, you don't have that time constraint. So you can train harder, you can train longer. So this is going to be something that a lot of people miss, and I think this is the biggest thing that I spend time with people on when I'm coaching them or when having consultations. You've got to get your MVP down. So many people start and just stay at level one, which is I want to lose weight, and a lot of times it's not even I want to lose weight; it's like I want to be healthy. That is so ambiguous. There's no way to understand whether or not you are working towards your goal if you don't have a clear target. If you're, shooting, you've got to make sure that you aim small, miss small. I think as Mark Wahlberg said in Shooter, Mark Wahlberg. So, okay, the mission is to lose 40 pounds. But now we got to get a level deeper. What is the vision, right? When you lose that 40 pounds, how does that now change how you feel? Because a lot of times, scale victories, weight on the bar victories, race time, those victories, you're trying to have that as a proxy for how you want to feel. So in this scenario, this person would want to feel more confident. Okay, awesome. So now you lose the 40 pounds, you're feeling more confident, but this is the most important here, the most important part here. This is what you got to nail down. How does that change how you see yourself? What does that do for you and your identity? Okay, so you lose 40 pounds, you're feeling more confident. Now your purpose is so that you can start dating, find a woman or a guy, whatever your thing is, that you feel is aligned, that you truly feel is your partner, so you can start a family because you've always dreamed of that. Okay, now we've got a very clear target. Now we've got a very clear purpose, but most importantly, we've got a very powerful version of yourself that you want to be in alignment with. And if you're not in alignment with that person, that's the painful part, right? A lot of people sit there and say, "Oh, I'd like to lose weight." But if they don't have a clear why, there's not enough to motivate them to keep going through the hard times. But if you have a powerful why, people will do crazy stuff when they believe what they're trying to do is important, is possible, and they've got a really clear motivating why. In future videos, I'll do other whys, other purposes that I see. But just simply being able to say, hey, I want to be the kind of father that either my father wasn't, or I want to be the kind of father that my father was. Man, when I look at my 1-year-old and I think about why am I doing certain things, that is a far bigger driver and a purpose than anything. And for this specific population, the single guy that is 31, I want to maybe go on a little bit of a tangent here. A lot of nihilism exists in society, and a lot of single guys thrown in the towel, opting out of society because girls stink, but also because it's just so much easier to play video games, watch porn, slide, into DMs on your phone, online date, and there's no real purpose for these people. And I see it with guys that get out of the military. I see it with guys that stop playing sports. Once you lose that structure, you lose that competition, that camaraderie, you lose that mission and that purpose, guys struggle, especially when they have ADHD. All of their attention and energy and focus fragments to the point to where now they're just being self-destructive. It's like a toddler. If you don't give them something to focus their energy on that is productive, they will blow up the room. And so you're probably sitting here in a really slow way, destroying your life. And I say that seriously because if you don't make a change soon, you're going to get to a point to where there is only so many opportunities from a dating standpoint. There is only so much you can do to ward off the aging that happens in your 40s and the lower testosterone, the fact that your organs and your peak muscle building windows have just, they're no longer where they once were. And so I think the real big thing here is to just realize that if you don't have a purpose, you are going to struggle. And if you just sit there and say, oh, I want to lose some weight so I can feel good, you're going to give up on week 2 because that's not a compelling enough reason to get out of bed at 6 a.m. That's not a compelling enough reason to opt for the chicken and steamed vegetables over the pizza. And you're just going to continue to stay in this loop. And I'll get to more of the mindset stuff in a second, but that's something that I think is just the number one thing that people are missing is what happens, what gets unlocked, almost like a video game. When you get to level 10, because your confidence is 10 out of 10 because you've lost 40 pounds, what then? What does that mean for you? What is now possible that is not possible currently with how you're operating your life? On the flip side, what happens if that 40 pounds gets added on double and now you've got 80 pounds to lose? How does life change then? That's a scenario that a lot of people don't want to go down. But when you get really clear on what happens if I don't change and what is possible if I do change, it's pretty motivating, pretty inspiring. So, all right, you might be sitting here like, okay, it's 10 minutes in. Why am I still listening to you? Just like the mighty Jabba asked why he must pay 50,000 credits. If you want to pause this is my background. Whether it's 100,000 spent on coaches, mentorship, certifications, education, whether it's 7 years as a coach, 3,300 coaching calls, 1,000 consultations as a D1 athlete, 1,100 my squat, bench, deadlift, ran a sub 3-hour marathon. These are things that I've done. These are things that I've experienced. These are this exact person. I was this person, 27 years old, super frustrated with my life, single, wanted more, wanted to find someone to date and eventually marry. So I've been this person. That's why I wanted to almost start with this in this series. I've done this. My team and I have done this with over 600 men. And so this is just what I've seen from an experience standpoint. And that's why if you're going to continue to watch, you should maybe listen, maybe take down some notes. This would be a good slide to take notes on. Your training plan, because let's break this down. If you're trying to lose 40 pounds, a lot of people, even in that, are going to sit there and think, oh, I want to lose 40 pounds. And that's what they think they have to lose. But in reality, they actually have more. That's why I'm so big on getting a body fat percentage done from a DEXA scan, because people will sit there and be like, oh yeah, I could lose 20, 30 pounds. A lot of times they could lose 50, 60, 70 pounds to get to a range to where now they're at 15, 16, 17% body fat. They actually feel really good. They actually look really good. And more importantly, internally, they've gotten rid of the visceral fat. Their insulin sensitivity is good. And if they do want to go and focus on building muscle, now they're at a body fat percentage that actually would make that make sense. But if you're like, oh, I just want to lose 20 pounds, you lose 20 pounds, you still, aren't where you want to be aesthetically, body fat percentage is still pretty high. Then what people do is they just sit there and then they boil back to, the weight that they were at previously. Like the way I would think about this is if you got 40 pounds to lose, truly lose that 40 pounds, then start to build some muscle. You're obviously training during that period of time, but now you've actually set yourself up. Like just 1 year of dialing this in for this individual, like a 31-year-old guy who's really never trained before, maybe like just kind of messed around in the gym, just 1 year of committing to this. And your health, your fitness, your confidence will change forever. And there's very few things in life where you could just say, hey, just focus on this for 1 year and your life will change. If you go to university, that's 4 years you got to commit. If you get a graduate degree, that's probably 6 years. If you get a PhD, it's 8, 10 years, right? If you start a business, 3, 4, 5 years before you actually see any benefits. If you get in a relationship, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many years before you actually marry the person, like lock in for 1 year with your health and fitness. You will be unrecognizable and you have built habits that will be really hard to escape because you're just going to be so much more aware of how good you feel, what you're capable of, and what your potential could be and how much you were missing out on when you were living that way. You're never going to want to go back to that. It's like flying first class or living, in a nice, clean room. And then all of a sudden you go back to living in the slums and sitting in the back with a bunch of babies on an airplane. You're gonna be like, what am I doing? I want to go back to where I was. Once you lock in for this year, you're never going to want to go back. So let's break this down. This is me assuming that this individual might not have a ton of confidence in movement. So what I would say is, okay, for that first month, let's just pretend it's January, nutritionally, you're going to focus on fat loss. Get yourself in a calorie deficit. We'll get to more numbers in a second. Get yourself in a calorie deficit, and you're going to see 5 to 10 pounds loss a month. And you're going to see that extrapolate 5 to 10, 5 to 10, 5 to 10. That's why it's ranging by the time you get to month 6. Could be 30, could be 60. All of that is great progress. I wouldn't sweat either way. You are moving in the right direction. Now, on the training side of things, if you're just starting out, I've got a body weight series on my YouTube channel, Fit for the Republic, or you could go dumbbell. That removes the decision fatigue. You just follow a 10 to 25-minute video that you can do and execute from your apartment, from your home, where you don't have to worry about being judged at the gym. You don't really have to worry about choosing exercises or even how much weight to do. You just follow along with a dude in a clone trooper helmet. It's pretty fun, pretty easy. I've had tens of thousands of people do it. Now, let's say you are like, hey, I actually do know a little bit more about what I'm doing. On this channel, Paul Clingan, I've got a 4-day split with some conditioning and training in a hypertrophy range, which is what I would focus on because you're trying to build some muscle here. Strength training, hypertrophy, really at the end of the day, it's going to be the same. Given where you're at, just simply lifting is going to get you stronger. I wouldn't really worry about, is this a strength training program or is this a hypertrophy program, until you've actually put a year under the bar, because you're going to progress pretty close to the same the entire way. Now, the one thing I would also say here, we've got some low intensity, steady state cardio. So that's going to be walking, zone 2 cardio, just to make sure that you've actually got some level of endurance. Let's say you lose this weight and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to run a 10K. Then your training split's going to really change. Now, as you get through here, you've got 3 months of a fat loss. And inside of this, you're probably going to have periods of diet breaks, of refeeds. I put here 1 month of a diet break. Maybe it's just a proxy for a vacation, or a proxy for a really stressful time at work, or really stressful time. Maybe a family member passes. Okay, you're going to take 2-3 weeks here to just be at maintenance to allow your body and your biofeedback to recover, because it is harder on your metabolism to be in a calorie deficit. Now you get back into that deficit and then boom, all of a sudden we hit that 40 pounds loss. And again, it might be that you actually had 60 pounds to lose, whatever it is, you locked in for 6 months. And now you're like, cool, it's the summer. I look so much better. I feel so much better. I want to get to a point to, now I'm focusing on building muscle, but maybe it's the summer and you want to just focus on this. And that's where, if we go and look at specific body compositions, Eamon's a really good example of this. He was a mid-20s guy, lost 25, 30 pounds. Now a lot of muscle starts to be revealed. That's a big difference that a lot of people think too. A lot of times they just want to reveal muscle that they have, and they think they want to build muscle. But if you just lost 50 pounds of fat, you would actually see a ton of muscle. And so much of body transformations is just people losing fat, and now their muscles look bigger, but they were always that size. If you've not been training and you go into a deficit and lose fat, you're going to build muscle anyway. So you'll probably feel great when you lose 40 pounds at 6 months in. Now you can just maintain. And if you're doing a 3-day strength split and just focusing on maintaining your strength, you're going to be able to do just fine. I put 15% here. This could be 15 to 20%. You're just trying to maintain in this range. All right. Now, let's say you feel good about your body composition. You got some visible definition in your torso, and you're like, yeah, I do want to focus on building muscle. Then you'd go back to hypertrophy training, 4-day split, allow for proper recovery, maybe 1 day of some metabolic conditioning, just some like interval stuff to make sure that you are staying athletic. 1 to 2 pounds a week, or 1 to 2 pounds a week is going to be what you see in terms of that actually being muscle. You are going to put on a little bit of fat. So I just put here really conservatively 1 to 2 pounds of muscle added on every month. By the time you get to the end of the year, 4 or 5 pounds on the low end, 8, 10 pounds on the high end. So that's a year, right? That's like unrecognizable and looking, feeling totally different. Then you go back into the next year and repeat something similar. Maybe you go and do a more of a conditioning type goal, like a high rocks, or you do a Spartan race, or you just, again, sit in this maintenance mode. And that's what a lot of people do. And that's totally fine. Just depends on what your goals are. But again, this is for that guy that's like, man, I want to feel more confident so that when I go into social situations, I'm not thinking about my body. I'm able to think about what the person in front of me is saying. And so let's zoom out here a little bit. What are some specific strategies inside of that? Regardless, 4 times a week, 3 you could definitely get away with. 6 to 12 rep range, 3 to 4 sets per exercise. I would aim for 4, 5, 6 exercises, depending on how you structure that with supersets. Those videos that I dropped will show you that. 7 to 8 RPE. As you improve form, you can definitely get heavier. But if, again, your training age is younger, you going and doing a max one rep squat or a deadlift, just a little bit higher risk for injury. Get a couple years under your belt doing a 3, 4, 5 rep max, and you're going to be able to, and it also depends, like, do you got a spotter? How comfortable do you feel with your form? Any injuries? Like, there's a lot of things that go into this, but just focus on a 7 to 8 RPE. 2, 3 reps away from failure. Honestly, if you just try and go to failure, you're going to think you're at failure, but you actually probably have 2 to 3 reps still in the tank. A day dedicated to zone 2 cardio, or if you, let's say you did a 4-day split and then one day where you just, 30-minute jog, or you could add a 10 to 15-minute 1 mile and a half run at the end of each session. 8 to 10K steps a day. Again, I'm assuming you're a single guy with not a lot going on. Again, you probably do have social activities, friends, things that you can be doing. But again, we're locking in here. So go get your 8 to 10,000 steps. Walking pad makes that super easy. I just got 15,000 steps a day while it's raining in Seattle. I would just break it up like a 30-minute walk in the morning, 30-minute walk in the evening, and you're probably going to be there pretty close. Depends on your job as well. Nutrition. Do not start at 2,400 calories. This is an arbitrary number, but regardless, you're just going to start tracking what you're eating and seeing what your weight does to that. I also like looking at a weekly goal, because then this could allow you to have higher days or lower days so that you don't always feel like, oh crap, I've got to go and make up for this 2,400 calorie day where I ate 2,800. Now I got to go and have 2,000 the next day. Like, just look at it as like, if I'm in a net deficit for the week and my weight represents that week over week with weigh-in averages, I'm good. Protein, 175 to 200 grams a day, depends on how much you weigh, depends on how tall you are, and really like what your body composition could be in terms of your goal weight. This, for the most part, is going to be a good place to aim at. Typically 0.7 to 1.2 grams per pound of goal weight is where you'd want to be. So let's just assume you're 230 pounds, you want to get to 190, right? The odds of you doing a gram of protein at 230 pounds is pretty low, considering you probably are having 90 grams now. So that's where I would aim on the little bit of the lower end and then bump it up as you get those rookie numbers up, and you're going to be good. 35 grams of fiber. If you're wondering what to eat to get that, throw some chia seeds in your protein shake, have some Greek yogurt with some raspberries, and then the potato skins that you're having on like a sweet potato or something at the end of the day. That'll get you there. Beans, that'd be another great thing to throw inside of maybe you have like a little burrito bowl or something that you make for yourself. There's a lot of things. Just Google it. Fiber's pretty easy. You could also have psyllium husks. 100 ounces of water. 2 ways to think about this. You could go for a gallon. That makes it easy to track because most things are in denominations of, or whatever it is. I'm not good at math. Multiples. It goes into whatever a gallon is ounce wise. Or 100 ounces. That's a nice round number. Or if your pee is anything other than white, drink more water. That's kind of a qualitative way to look at that. Recovery, bed at 10, aim for 7 to 8 hours of sleep. This population, the guy that doesn't have a whole lot asking for him to do things outside of his boss Monday through Friday, will stay up till 12, 1, 2. I've been there. I get it. Skyrim just had its 14th year anniversary. I was there playing 15 hours the day it came out. That's way past this. I was saying that, I was like, what's his name? Elrond. I was there, Gandalf. I was there 300 years ago. Like that, like I totally get it. It's very hard to just turn it off, but you got to do that, because if you disrupt your circadian rhythm, keep cortisol elevated, you're going to end up developing a ton of insulin resistance. All that fat's going to sit around the belly, and it's going to make it more likely that you develop things like, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high, A1C, and develop prediabetes. Like, you're 31 years old. You don't need to be dealing with any of that ever, but especially not at that age. You're super young. So go to bed at 10. If you like gaming, wake up early, game 5, 6 a.m. And the other way I would think about this too, if you're going to bed at 10 and then on the weekends you go to bed at 2, you're effectively traveling from like Chicago to Hawaii every single week. Like a 4 or 5 hour difference to your sleep constantly is why you feel so tired. And it's why Monday sucks. Get into a situation where you go to bed maybe at 9 and then 10 or 10 and 11. Like, the more consistent you can be, the better off you're going to be. And frankly, if you get off at work at 5 or 6, you work out for an hour. Yeah, you got to make food, but like 2 hours of video games, plenty. You could also read, develop yourself that way. You could get into meditation. You could get into hobbies. Like, there's a lot of other things you can do. You just got to kind of be honest with yourself. Like, is this 12 hours a week contributing to where I want to be 5 years from now? And if it is, keep doing it. If not, make a change. Okay, so track data. This is what I use with my clients. It's called Trainerize. Just pulls everything into it. If you want to learn more about working together, there's going to be a link down below in the description. But the biggest thing here is you've just got to be aware of what you're putting into your body. Track your numbers on a training side of things, and you might be sitting there being like, "Oh, I don't want to. Like that's too much work." One, suck it up. There's not a single business job that you'd have where you're not keeping track of some data. There's not a single, video game you play where it's just like play the game. There's no data on your stats. Like this is how you play the game. You keep track of your data, you try to improve it, and when you don't get the data that you want, you change your strategy so you get the data that you want. It's not that you have to track everything. The way I would think about it is an executive summary. Track your weight, and this is the slide here. Track your weight, get some basic assessment of how many push-ups, dead hang time, how many pull-ups you can do, and get those numbers, and then track the things that are important to you. And then the way I like to look at it is like, if I'm not where I want to be health-wise in a certain area, then I'll go and deep dive into the data in that section. Like if my digestion is really off, then I would go and deep dive into fiber. But if I'm really good and able to just intuitively be there and I'm focused more on my strength, then I'm going to deep dive into my strength numbers. Like just focus on small pockets of data. But once you identify what the key performance indicators are for your goals, track that. It's going to make you more confident. It's going to make you less emotional, and you're more likely to keep going. To that point, weigh in daily first thing in the morning after you go to the bathroom in minimal clothing. This is going to help you catch things like food intolerances, sickness, explain when random weight drops or weight spikes. Journal of Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. I can't even talk right now. People that weighed themselves daily over 6 months lost significantly more weight, basically an average of like 13, 14 pounds compared to those who are less frequent. What gets measured gets managed. All right. Track your nutrition. Like I said, start at 2,400, 880 grams of protein. A lot of times you'll go to caloriecalculator.com. It's going to give you numbers that are way off. Look at that and say, cool, neat. Those are aggregate numbers or average numbers of millions of people that have entered data into there. It has no understanding of you as an individual. I know it'll ask you like how active you are, but the other part that you got to realize here is that so many people underreport how much they're eating. So they'll go here and they'll say, okay, like the website said to aim for 2349. I ate 23,409 and I didn't lose any weight. A calorie deficit didn't work for me. It does work for you. You're just not in a calorie deficit. 2003 study from the American Journal found that underreporting energy intake amongst men and women underreport 25%, men by about 20%. So you probably thought you're at 2,400, but 20% is another 500 calories on top of that. So you were actually at 2,800. 2008 study, nearly 1,700 participants, shows that keeping a food diary can double a person's weight loss. It doesn't have to be tracking all the macros, all the calories. That would definitely be ideal, especially because it's going to give you more education and awareness around what you're eating. A lot of people want to subscribe to, oh, I just kind of eat intuitively. I just kind of go off I feel like I'm eating pretty healthy. I try to make portion decisions. And unfortunately, if you are not the body composition that you want to be, your feelings are wrong and your intuition is off. And the way I would think about this is if my phone had a compass and it was pointing me north, and every time I walked north, I actually went west, this thing needs to be adjusted. Well, that's this thing right here. And so the way that you train your intuition is through pattern recognition of objective data. If your intuition is not aligned, you're going to continue to get the same results of what you want. And that's why tracking this data is so important, because it trains your intuition to actually correctly identify patterns. And then you can intuitively eat because your intuition is now attuned to what is actually objective reality. And at this point, I'm like beating a dead horse. Sorry to all the horses out there, but that is just the most important thing for you to dial in, is just some form of data entry, tracking, consistency, so that you're not sitting there in your feelings and saying, oh, I feel like I'm eating health. If you feel like that, that is not reality. Your feelings are not reality. It can definitely be a good indicator of which direction to go. But again, your intuition's only going to be as good as your pattern recognition software inside your head. All right, nutrition approach. I've actually got a really good breakdown in this video on my channel, Costco Wholesale. What I would say is aim for the 5 S's: soup, salad, smoothie, scramble, stir fry. There's ingredients here. I'll zoom out of this so you can see it just a little bit better. But essentially, aim for things that are 5 ingredients or less. Keep it simple. Again, you're a single dude that can just cook meals real quick and optimize for other areas of your life. Are there people that love to cook? Yes, absolutely. Go knock yourself out. But if you can make something in 10 minutes, put that on autopilot, not have to think about it, and now 80% of your meals are just rinse and repeat of the same 3 things for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Now you've got 9, 10 meals that you make total. Really makes it easy to grocery shop, really makes it easy to intuitively eat in the future because you've had these meals so many times. And then it creates space. Structure creates freedom. It creates space to go on dates, to go to birthdays, to go out with your friends, and not have to worry about what it is you're eating because you've created that structure and you won the Tuesday afternoon and the Friday morning, and then you're able to actually have space for the other things that you want. Okay, daily movement. Weigh in first thing in the morning. I already mentioned that one. This was supposed to say moving, essentially. 2014 study in the International Journal of Behavior Nutrition found that participants underreported sedentary time by about a little over 2 hours. Another 2009 study from Dutch young adults overreported physical activity by 60%. So that's why tracking your steps is absolutely massive. 3, 2, 1. So this is a little way to think about sleep. The 3 hours before bed, you want to stop with high intensity interval training or things that would really ramp up your nervous system to where your heart rate is at 180, 190 beats per minute. This will help you fall asleep easier. Systems that are in a state of fight or flight do not want to go to bed. So if your nervous system is all jacked up from doing a bunch of wind sprints, it's going to be harder for you to fall asleep. So try and do that earlier in the day. Stop eating 2 hours before bed to help with digestion. Post-dinner walks are going to help with that a ton. Helps push everything down, gets you into that parasympathetic state. If you've got a big old gut bomb and then you just go to bed, one, it'll probably wake you up because your body's going to ramp up your internal temperature. And then 2, they'll just make it really hard to go to bed when you got the meat sweats and you're sweating at night. Stop screens 1 hour before bed, help the circadian rhythm, your neural association with bed. So really be, hey, the bed is for sleep, baby making, maybe do some reading and meditation, but 1 hour before bed, turn those screens off so that your eyes aren't pulling in light. Because again, that's going to tell your brain that it is daytime and that you should stay up, and that's going to mess with your circadian rhythm. This is one of my favorite little hacks here, daily protein shake. I've got several in this video that you can check out, but I always just make the master swoldas galactic green. Some spinach, chocolate or vanilla protein powder, banana or berry mix if you want to change the flavors, and then some almond milk. It is fantastic. I've never had anyone else say differently. Okay, cool. So these are a couple other ones. Supplements. Actually, I don't want to skip over this. So this is a big one. As guys get into now, okay, I want to start a family. And so the big thing here is that you want to set yourself up for success. One of the best things you can do to improve your testosterone and set yourself up for having kids is to get the weight off, improve your testosterone. That's going to come through proper diet, losing the fat, strength training. So lifestyle and health habits, maintaining a healthy weight, being overweight or underweight can affect hormone levels and sperm quality. 2013 meta-analysis, moderate physical activity to help balance hormones and reduce stress. That's why going to bed is so important. When you stay up all night, keeps cortisol elevated, suppresses testosterone. Avoid smoking and drugs. Tobacco, marijuana, and other recreational drugs can affect sperm production. Alcohol is another one that will destroy your sleep and greatly impact sperm production. And then, like I said, manage stress, breath work, yoga, therapy. Those are all going to be things that help downregulate how you respond to stressors and downregulate your nervous system. Supplements that are going to be beneficial here. Omega-3 from a fish oil. It's going to make it real easy there to help with inflammation. And then vitamin D as well, help with nutrient absorption, inflammation, and help on that vitamin or the testosterone side of things as well. Magnesium helps with sleep. Creatine is going to help a ton with performance. This video here breaks things down more if you want to go and check that out. Now, mindset. This is the last piece here. I think I got maybe one. Yeah, I got one more slide. So anchors and propellers. I'm going to pull this out here so I can just talk to you guys. You've got to get really clear. And I would journal this, maybe meditate, pray, whatever your style is, and just write down who in my life is an anchor and a propeller. When I get around this person, do they amplify where I'm trying to get to? Do they inspire me to be better? Or do they pull me back into old loops that if I stay in these old loops, I'm going to continue to get more of the same life and the same results that I am trying to escape? And you just got to be brutally honest. And you may have that buddy from high school and you guys go way back and you're super loyal. But if every single time you hang out with him, he wants you to do some beer sodas or he wants you to, go gambling, you might just need to separate yourself from that person. And that's like one of the hardest things to do, but you just got to ask yourself, are you willing to sacrifice your life to maintain this relationship? And I had to go through a period where I kind of went into my Batman era where I was just like, hey, like I'm just going to hang out with myself. And I listened to some podcasts and some books and hung out with people that did inspire me. And that was enough to rewire my mindset to actually start to think differently. And so much of your mindset is going to be from the 5 people you surround yourself with, or from your environment, from your parents, from your friends, from your teachers, from your coworkers. And if all of those people just frankly are losers and they've got mindsets that keep them small and you small, it's going to be really hard for you to go and operate differently, because then you'll find yourself back in this energy where everyone's trying to drag you down. And it'll either show up as them saying, oh, what are you trying to do? Eat healthy? Oh, are you too good for us? Oh, come on, man, you used to be cool. Oh, our family can't lose weight. We're all just big boned, right? Like these are things that family members say, that friends say. And you just got to be able to cut yourself from that, because that is so hard. It is already hard enough to work out and eat healthy and make these habit changes. Having people in your corner trying to pull you back down as you try and climb that ladder and improve your life, it's just going to pull you back. You got to cut ties. Doesn't mean you don't see them and don't try to inspire them, but I can't tell you how many people have come back around 4 or 5 years later and they're like, hey man, what have you been doing? This is really inspiring. I got to get on my game. And had I not made that change, I would have just been another person to them. And you got to be able to say, hey, I'm going to go into my Batman era and just come out, or Bruce Wayne era, and just come out the other side Batman. But that happens in a little bit of isolation, right? There's going to be people that you meet on your journey, or maybe you get a coach, maybe you find a community that help guide you. But this is something that not a lot of people get, because not a lot of people are willing to distance themselves from the people that drag them down, because those people at the end of the day are anchors. Apps. Whoo-wee, man. I mean, the phones are probably the most destructive thing for the development, especially of guys, in probably all of history. When you look at all of the vices that it can give you, social media, porn, gambling, DoorDash, these are all things that we used to have to work for. We used to have to like go and, work really hard to find a source of food. We used to have to work really hard to go on a date, get the person to, fall in love with us, and then mate and procreate. We used to have to work really hard to, I don't even know what we used to do before sports betting. I'm sure there's bookies and whatnot. We'd have to go to the Roman Coliseum, but it's like all this stuff is now at your fingertips. The visual I like to think about this is, as society starts to get more and more technologically advanced, if you don't actively choose to be on one side of the pillar or the other, it's just going to accelerate. And whatever addictions you already have, society and how technology is moving is just going to make it easier to fall on that side of this pillar that is rising. Like technology is rising like this, and you have to decide, am I going to get on this side or this side? Because technology also makes it easier to get healthy and fit. It makes it easier to get good food. We just ordered food from DoorDash, or not DoorDash, Amazon Fresh. We got healthy groceries, food that's going to help us towards our goals, my wife and son and I, but we also go to DoorDash, 2 buttons. Technology accelerates and amplifies that which we are. And so that's where I would get really clear. What are the apps that I find myself wasting a ton of time on? What are the apps that I notice as soon as I get out of that app, I feel gross? What are the apps that, man, I'd have so much more money for gym equipment if I wasn't spending it on the Buffalo Bills game, right? Like these are little things that we just kind of assume is just normal society. But the best thing you can do a lot of times in life is just delete things and recognize how much better you feel, how much more mental clarity you have. And this hasn't even gotten into how much dopamine gets disrupted and how you get into this addictive pattern where you want junk food, you want another hit of your app, you want another hit of your vape, you want another hit of X, Y, and Z, because we're just trained to be like rats. Give me my phone, give me my phone, give me my phone. So what happens if you just didn't go on your phone for a week? Probably one of the hardest things for people. But if you're able to do that, you're going to be able to resensitize yourself to sit down and focus. I've got ADHD. If I allow this stuff to take over, it just amplifies that ADHD anymore. But I would look at it as I've got hyperactivity in my brain. If I'm allowed to focus it like a Death Star tractor beam, I'm going to be so much more productive. And I notice that when I've got a purpose and when I've got a YouTube video that I'm making, I'm getting really excited about it. Boom, I pull together the deck, I pull together the video, I get into flow state, and it's freaking amazing. I can't wait to do the next one with you guys. But if I'm sitting there addicted to my app and I'm like, just doing all these short-term dopamine things, I wouldn't get anything done. All right. I'm just like you guys. Everyone is victims. We got to choose to not be a victim, but everyone is all dealing with this same battle against our phones. To that point, habits. This could be the habit of hitting the snooze button. This could be vaping. This could be smoking. This could be having a couple beers every single night just to wind down and relax. There's so many things that we do to just numb ourselves, to not have to face the fact that we're not happy with where we want to be. And to use a inverse of bad habits like therapy, journaling, meditation, getting really clear and listening to like how you're actually feeling is one of the best things you can do. Little bonus tip: if you're a single guy trying to get into dating, getting in tune with your awareness and your emotions and understanding and being able to articulate yourselves and how you're feeling and have some emotional intelligence, one of the best things that you can do when you are trying to find a significant other. Little pro tip there. I've done therapy, I've done coaching, I've done somatic therapy, I've done couples therapy, like you name it. It helps me understand myself and interact with other people with different psychologies. Okay, so second to last one. With great responsibility comes great power. Lots of different ways to go with this. Obviously, the Spider-Man quote is, with great power comes great responsibility. But if you flip it, with great responsibility comes great power. And this is where you've got to just take the mindset of everything that happens in my life is my fault. You may not be able to control if you lose a parent when you're 12. You may not be able to control if the car sideswipes you while you're parked. You may not be able to control what this political person is doing in the White House. But if you sit there and say, I'm not where I want to be because of that person, I'm not where I want to be because of my genetics, I'm not where I want to be because it's just not in the cart, you will never accomplish anything in your life, because you're giving away all of your power to things that, one, don't even know that they have power over you, right? It could be your phone. Like, your phone's not sitting there being like, I've got power over him. Maybe Zuckerberg is, but you've got to be able to say, everything that happens to me is my fault. Because when you say it's my fault, you have the power to do something about it after something bad has happened to you or before something bad has happened to you. So if you're looking at your body and you're like, man, I don't like my body, you can sit there and be like, oh, I've got bad genetics. Oh, everyone at the gym is jerks to me. And so I don't have any way to feel confident at the gym. Like, whatever it is, that's your fault. You get to choose how you respond to that and how you adapt and how you find ways to navigate the inevitable challenges that everyone else has. But if you just sit there and play the victim and blame women and you blame the political environment and you blame your boss and you blame your family for like, when are you going to take accountability for where you're at? And at the end of the day, especially, this is speaking to this individual, because I was this individual for 5 years. I was like, man, I'm not really attracting the girl that I want to in my life. And it took me going through several fitness heroes journeys, and doing a lot of reflection, realizing like, I'm not attracting the person that I want. And if you want to attract someone that you feel like you deserve, you need to reflect that, represent that. I was going to say represent, reflect at the same time. You need to represent that. You need to be that and embody that. And then you're going to attract what it is that you want. Like attracts like. You don't get promoted and then start doing the job. You do the job and then you get promoted, right? And the girl that you end up with, we'll just use girls for this example. The person you end up with is probably one of the biggest things will have an impact on your life. And if you just go on the rest of your life not feeling confident in your body, not ever making a change, just continuing to be average. And then you attract someone that doesn't value their health, that doesn't value personal development. And then maybe at 40, you have this awakening, you're like, oh crap, I'm really wasting my life. Now you've hunkered down with someone that's going to make it harder on you to eat healthy, that isn't going to support your goals and dreams, that's going to want you to play small and stay safe with them. And you're really going to make it hard on yourself. And so if you want to set yourself up to continue to grow and progress, you want to find someone that is also interested in personal development and growth and wanting to push what it is that they are capable of. And then you guys get to grow together. That's one of the coolest things that you can have in a partner. But if you don't do the work to attract that person, then you're going to be stuck either never doing it yourself and always wanting to, or you just become apathetic and you and your partner just sit on the couch and just waste away into oblivion. And then you have kids that see that as the representation of what health and fitness and, life is. And that's not fair to them. Right. And like, that's why I'm so big on this, because in this specific scenario, I want to lose 40 pounds so I can feel more confident, so I can attract someone that I want to start a family with. Attract the best person that you could possibly attract, which means do the work to become the best version of yourself that you could possibly be. That lies with you. You have the power to do that. When you take the responsibility for everything that happens in your life, you're going to be able to be the one that does the work that makes that happen. And so last thing I would just say is start now. Again, there's the biology, right? If you're in your early 30s, that testosterone is going to eventually start to dip. You're losing your window to really make sure that you put on as much muscle as possible, which is like a 401k that just slowly comes down. It's not impossible, but it definitely gets harder once you have 2-3 kids. And like, if you use this mindset of, I'll start Monday, right? It's just procrastination at the end of the day. And you've just got to be able to be honest with yourself and say, I am so tired of living the life that I'm living that I would rather go into the unknown abyss, which is what the hero's journey is, than continue to live life this way. And the only way that you're going to overcome all of these doubts and things saying start then, start later, do it later, it's not the right time, is just to start now. There is no perfect time. The perfect time is the time that you make it. That's what's going to make it perfect, because you're going to look back 2 years from now and be like, I'm so glad I started then, because otherwise, where would I be now? That's it. I can't believe this has been 47 minutes. At this point, I'll wrap this up. Like, these are 3 guys that were this exact person, late 20s, early 30s, that are down 40 pounds in the last 6 to 12 months inside of Fit Nerd Academy. If you want to learn more about getting support with my team and I, we gamify the process. You get a sick clone trooper helmet, and you get to do it in a gamified community with one-on-one coaching. And so that's down in the description if you want to learn more. If you got value out of this video, like, subscribe, share it with a friend. Comment down below if you want other scenarios, metabolic conditions, injuries, different ages, different life stages, different goals. I'll make more of these videos, but the principle is going to be the same. Start now. Great power comes with great responsibility, and you just got to identify your anchors and your propellers. Wish you the best. Catch you in the next video. Peace.